Raw Talk is opinion-based, and everyone is encouraged to do their own research. Welcome back to Raw Talk. Question this week is, what is your outlook on alcohol? Now, this is a serious subject, and I can easily probably spend an hour talking about this. I'm going to do my best to condense this and really focus on some key points here. That's going to be my history with alcohol, some of the things I've dealt with in the past with it, where I was at my worst when I was overusing alcohol, and then where I'm at now. And honestly, my outlook now on alcohol is I could take it or leave it. I still do think about it often, but more often than not, I'm going to leave it because I've found that I just feel so much better when I'm not drinking, and I have newfound clarity, and there's just so many benefits that I've uncovered to drinking less. So I'm going to get into this. First of all, alcohol, I'm going to give my opinion on it. You know, it really truly is the most accepted drug. Let's not get it twisted. Alcohol is a drug. It is one of the worst, too, in my opinion. It affects so many families. You have DUIs happening. You have people getting killed by drunk drivers. I know people who have lost their lives to this. And so I don't say any of this stuff lightly on this episode, talking about this substance. It's a tough one. Also, I believe that alcohol is population control, right? It's on like almost every corner. Just go drive down any main street. You're going to see some liquor stores out there. It's also the cheapest drug that exists. You can go buy a big old handle of vodka, like super cheap, in the plastic bottle. And the reason why I think that it's population control is because if you work for a corporation or a company, I guarantee you they have happy hours and everybody can go ahead and have some drinks and forget about all the shit that matters. Hey, why don't we go celebrate with some drinking? You know, like, it's so socially accepted that you almost get looked at different if you're not drinking. Like, there's almost like, oh, I'm not going to have a drink. Well, why don't you want to drink? Like, people like are almost like, why don't you want to drink? That's how socially accepted it is. I've been in relationships, long-term relationships with an alcoholic before, and I'm not going to get into all that, but those were some very dark times, and I experienced some bad things through all that. Like, it was not pretty. And anybody who's had alcoholism in their family has seen some bad shit. So yeah, I honestly think it's population control, and it's a way for people to numb out and not pay attention to the real things that's happening. So there's that, okay? Obviously, growing up, I would drink in my late teens. You know, we're partying. I think that's normal. Like, you're young, you don't know what it's like, you know, so you're experimenting with it. Like, sure, that is, you know, that has its place. I'm not going to say that's okay, but it has its place. I definitely partake in underage drinking, and I was lucky that I didn't get completely dependent on it. I was more 420 friendly and still am, but alcohol was definitely something that later in life I was using to like escape boredom and stuff. So I'm gonna jump forward in my own timeline. I'm gonna talk about 3 years ago when I quit painkillers, and then what happened with alcohol after that time in my life and where I'm at now with it. So quitting painkillers, I used to look forward to doing that drug, and you know, there's a void that is there. You know, like, you used to spend money on it, you used to look forward to it, now that's removed. And then I talked about this a little bit last week. Some things came into the void that were not so good. Alcohol was one of those things. So with podcasting too, I kind of got into this routine of having fun, having some drinks. Let me record, let me have some drinks. I'm having fun, you know, and I was having on average, around 6 to 10 beers a night, and I was drinking whiskey on top of it. And that's when it was getting to its very worst. Like, I'd be, I could easily drink 12 beers one evening and like have multiple, whiskey on the rocks. And I was doing it like that. Um, I was drinking heavily for probably over a year, and I was getting super heavy too. I was overweight, so I was like 260 pounds, around there. And I realized, like, I'm like, like, it was hurting for me to go up the stairs. Like, my knees were hurting just walking up the stairs at this weight and drinking heavily every single day. Like, it had been months in a row, and I was just drinking that frequent every single night. Now, I know that based upon those numbers, that sounds like an alcoholic, right? I don't feel like I was truly an alcoholic, but I was definitely like dependent on it for a little bit, and I was using alcohol to escape boredom. Like, oh, what do I got going on tonight? Nothing. Well, I can, have a couple drinks while I watch YouTube. You start drinking. It gets a little fun. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, you drink a little bit, like, you get loose. Like, you have fun with that. But it's just no good, man. So I was aware of this, right? Like, I quit pills. Now I'm over drinking. It's like, come on, man. Like, I can see how stupid that is. So I told myself, I was like, look, I'm going to just dedicate myself to one day of sobriety off of booze a week. And I did it like for Sundays, and I called it a simple Sunday. And if I didn't do it on Sunday, maybe it was on a Monday. Motivational Monday. Like, I kind of had fun with it. Yeah, I'm doing my simple Sunday. Yeah, I'm doing my motivational Monday. And I'm not telling anybody that they need to quit drinking, but we should all be in control of how much we intake. And if you find yourself coming home after a long day's work or whatever, and the first thing you want to do is pour yourself a drink, like, maybe this episode's for you. So I started by getting that like one day off a week, and then eventually it turned like, let me do two days off without alcohol, and that kind of just like showed me that I could. And I was still thinking about doing it, but I wasn't. And whenever you are trying to change like how you're abusing a substance, or you're trying to remove it from your life, my thought process on it is that it's going to take a while, and you have to give yourself time to slowly remove this thing from your life. Like, that whole cold turkey thing, that might work for some people, but for me, I like that slow, gradual get off. Like, we're taking our time with it. So it was probably a whole year that I was thinking about my over drinking. I probably thought about it for a whole year before I actually started to decrease the amount that I was using. So once I got to like doing it every 2 days a week, that's when I was like, okay, this is cool. I can manage this. And like I was mentioning on my weight loss journey last week on the Attack 5 plan, I knew that alcohol was preventing me from losing even more weight. And so I had been taking days off, and that was working well for me. And so I was just like, fuck it. Like, it's the middle of summer right now. This was summer of 23. And I was like, I'm going to stop drinking right now. I'm going to hit these new weight goals. And so I stopped drinking for 2 months, like 2.5 months during the summer, something like that. And that really changed a lot for me. Having that clarity and discipline, and especially during the summer. Because here's the thing with alcohol is, oh, it's summertime, everyone's having fun, let's have some drinks. Or, now it's fall, oh, well, this is a great Oktoberfest. Like, there's always a reason to fucking drink. Like, society always gives us a reason to drink. And once you remove that and you realize like that you don't need to meet that standard, that you could be above that standard of like, oh yeah, I get home or I go to a happy hour and I have some drinks or whatever, your mentality will change with this. And then you realize that it's like, it's not even that great. Like, alcohol really is not that great. Like, sure, every once in a while, it's fine to have a couple. Like, if you're drinking like a couple beers a week, there's nothing wrong with that. But to each their own, right? And I really got to focus on my own journey here, because I'm still on this journey, and I'm still figuring out my outlook moving forward with alcohol, because I still think about it from time to time and I still want to do it, but I just don't. And like, that craving might last like 2 minutes and then it's gone. So when I took that 2 months off of drinking last summer, and then I finally did have a drink again, I went way too fucking hard. Like, I think I drank a whole bottle of whiskey the first day that I drank again, and I was like, yeah, partying, woo. And that was so stupid and naive of me. Like, looking back, like, come on, man. Like, what was I even really thinking? And I was hungover for like 4 fucking days off of that. Felt like shit. And so I kind of was drinking a little bit, this and that, and then October came, right? And my mom, I was on the fence about alcohol. I didn't know how I felt about it, and I knew that it didn't really have a place like it used to in my life. And my mom challenged me to doing Sober October with her, and I immediately said yes. I was like, yes, for sure, I would love to do that. And then I did October, and then I realized, like, let me do this until 2024. Like, let me take this into the new year. And so I did just that. I did it all the way into 2024, did not have a single drink, and I was feeling great. And I brought it a little bit past. I think I went October through January, and not even a single drop. All through all the holidays and all the excuses. Oh, you get together. And like, look, I was single at that time too. I was going on dates, and I was not drinking. Like, you can have fun without alcohol. You can, let loose without alcohol. Like, you don't need it in order to have a conversation. You don't need it to be social. Like, that's all bullshit. Like, if you think you need alcohol in order to do something else, like, you should be really looking inward and like critiquing why you need that crutch. Like, why do you need that? So I didn't drink until like February, and then I started drinking again in February. But at this point, like, my mentality had really changed. Like, I was just doing it like maybe occasionally, or, maybe I would have more than a couple days out of that week where I would drink. And then I would notice that I didn't feel as good about myself. So where I'm at with it right now is I might have a couple beers out of the week. I might have a couple glasses of wine on the week. But I'm not looking forward to it. I'm not planning my day around it. And like, it's not a central part of the day. It's not a part of the plan. And for me, that's where I am happy with it. But I know that, like, it's always kind of in the back of my head somewhere, like, a beer sounds nice, but does it? Like, that shit makes me start burping, and then I get bloated, and then, like, I know I'm more tired the next day when I drink. And then when I do drink, like, my inhibitions for like diet control goes out the window, because I want to eat some food, so then I'm not feeling hungover the next day. Like, even after like 3 or 4 beers, like, I'll still be feeling that the next day a little bit. So it's kind of a challenging one, and it's a difficult one to get over. And really, to each their own. And if you are working on removing alcohol from your life, like, I suggest you take your time with it, and just take 1 day off a week at first. And I mean, even with this, like, let's say that you are drinking a lot. Like, you're a heavy drinker and you drink, like, I don't know, half a bottle a night, or you drink a 6-pack a night. Maybe just cut that down to like 1 drink a night at first. That's still progress. And if you're coming off of it and then you feel like you're disappointed in yourself because you overdrank, like, you got to give yourself a break. You can't be so hard on yourself. You still have to just acknowledge the progress that you're making and pat yourself on the back. Because if you go from 6 beers a night down to 2 beers a night, like, that's progress, baby. That's progress. And then what you're going to do is just build this momentum, and then you realize, I don't need it. I don't need a drink today. Like, I can go this whole day without drinking. And then you start to learn more parts of yourself. Like, I was trying to escape boredom with alcohol. Like, it's so easy. Like I was saying, I feel like alcohol is population control. I feel like it's readily available everywhere, and it's super cheap, and it's socially accepted. So it's like, why is something that kills our liver, that makes us not be able to operate motor vehicles correctly, that will throw inhibitions out so we beat our family members and like hit and yell at people? Like, alcohol is no good, man. It's no good, especially when you're overusing it. Like, if you can just have a glass of wine with a nice dinner, nothing wrong with that. You enjoy having like a couple beers on a Friday night, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, there is a fine line here, and everybody gets to draw their own. It's a difficult one. My outlook on alcohol is that I don't really want it in my life how I used to want it. Like, I used to look forward to it. And now I feel so good waking up clear-minded. And honestly, being super honest and transparent, like, I do use marijuana every single day. And I've been thinking about cutting that out of my life too, because it's like, how am I going to sit here and like remove painkillers and then, you know, stop drinking as much, and then like be like, yo, but marijuana's okay? Like, there's something off with me to where it's like I am still needing to change my, you know, it's like I can't just be sober. Like, how come I need to change that? Like, how come I can't just sit and be okay with that? So I'm on this journey, man. I'm on this journey, and it's not easy. It's not easy, and I walk it alone, and I do have people that are in my corner that I can talk to, and I'm so grateful for that. But deep down, like, I'm in the middle of it still. And alcohol was just one of those things that was a priority for me to look at and get under control. I believe that everybody tuning into this, again, I appreciate your support, but I believe in you. I believe you have the power to control the circumstances in your life. You have the power to control the outcome. And you have the power to put the drink down. You have the power to put the needles down, or the pills down, or the smoke down, or the nicotine down. You have the power. And I'm going to keep touching on substance abuse on this show, Raw Talk, because it's something that it affects everybody's lives. Like, who am I kidding? Everybody has a family member that's dealing with something, maybe, or you're dealing with somebody, or your parent was dealing with some shit, or like we grew up rough, or like we lost people, or, you know, we don't want to deal with the emotions, so then we fucking go to substance abuse because we don't actually want to face the facts that are difficult to face. And that's sad. And I'm dealing with that too. I still got a beast within. I still feel like this monster that is like pissed off within, and it's hard to like silence that sometimes, man. And the more clear that my thoughts have become, in a sense, like, the bigger that monster is. And I know I still got some demons that I got to look eye to eye with and really like come to peace with some things. And I got to identify that still. Like, I don't know where everything is. I don't know where my frustration comes from. And part of me almost feels like I'm just always going to be a little bit frustrated, and maybe that's okay too. Like, maybe that's all right for me to just have this chip on my shoulder, because it's not easy. And like, they try to shove all this stuff in our face all the time and be like, yeah, you know, go ahead and drink booze and shit. And it's like, I'll drive by a liquor store and flip that shit off nowadays. Like, fuck that control. That's the big thing. Is it controlling you, or are you controlling it? Are you in control of your substance abuse? Are you even doing substance abuse? I don't know, man. It's a tricky one. I could keep going down this rabbit hole of talking about this, but I feel like I got my main points off there, and just express my thoughts on this. I don't really have a call to action for anybody this week. I don't have a call to action for myself. I just felt like I needed to talk about this one because it affects so many families, and it's everywhere, and there's just key points to it. And we put the bottles down, and then we can really start having that self-dialogue with ourselves and figure out why are we drinking so much? Like, why is life so stressful and hard that, like, I can't deal with it and I have to have alcohol in order to fucking manage? Like, fuck that. That's how I feel. Fuck that. And what is your outlook on alcohol? What is it? Next week, I'm going to talk about the void of when you quit a substance and how that looked for me when I got off opiates, and how some bad things went into the void and how some good things came out of it too. Thank you everybody for tuning in. This is a rant for me. Sometimes my thoughts are organized, sometimes they bounce all over the place, but I am thankful that I have this place to express myself, and I really do hope that these words find somebody out there and help them follow the direction which leads them down the right path. We all know the right thing to do. We all do. And too often it's ignored. Let's act immediately on doing the right thing for the right reason, even if it's the hard thing to do. I love y'all, and thank you so much for tuning into this one.